Hi everyone, today I'm going to be showing you how to use these small holes that I have embedded in my lily lines of 1 and 2 French curve rulers. Here's one right there, really close, you can see it right there. Okay, well in any case, these can be used as pinholes, which you can actually use for some rotational designs, as well as what I actually use them the most for, which is just a quick alignment point for doing some design work. Sometimes, squinting and taking a close look and being really accurate with lining up using the precision alignment lines, is a little slower than I want to go. So I will instead choose one of the many sort of pinhole alignment lines just as a quick guide. So this particular design I'm going to do for you uses the center of this rotational grid, and I'm essentially going to notch my hopping foot right into the corner of my ruler here. This drawing wheel represents the hopping foot and exactly what the needle will be able to sew. I'm going to actually start this design, however, sewing it right up here in the corner. So I'm going to sew all the way around this curve right into the notch, and then I'm going to put my needle down so it can't move, and I'm going to flip my ruler and line it up using, again, this pinhole so that it's just kind of fast for me to do that. So now I'm ready to sew again. All the way around. And I'm going to stop. So now I have this fun shape ready to do some, I'm going to do some feather design work with it. So first thing I'm going to do though is put the rest of these designs in, and we'll be right back. So as you can see, I've done that same design all the way around, making some foundations for some spines. Now what I've also done here is I've divided this open space with a rough pencil line in between each so that I can add some feather shapes and basically keep each feathered zone sort of contained in its area. I've also added an arch over top of each of these curls to give myself a rough guideline of where I would like my feathers to be. So I'm going to actually start down here in the center with a division feather, and I'm going to add classic heirloom feathers, but obviously you could use any kind, traveling up the inside curl of this spine, stretching, maybe adding a cute little curly cue. Now I don't want to keep getting bigger. I do want to leave some space here, so now I'm going to go ahead and reduce the size of my feathers and continue on this inside curl. Now I've finished with this little terminal feather here, and what I'd like to do is basically double this spine all the way back to about this point here. And now in order to do that, I can either do that freehand, or if I prefer, I can bring my ruler back into place, find the place that I've stopped with my feather, and use the ruler as kind of a just a guide. This is classic ruler work, pushing it along and realigning so that I can control the size of my feather shape. Giving myself a double spine all the way back. So I've stopped my double spine right here, and ultimately I want to come back and feather the inside of this particular spine. To do that, however, I need to get back here to the bottom. So how will I do that? What I'm going to do is I'm going to add a shape as I come down this opening between these two back-to-back feathers. This could be any shape. I'm just doing pebbles here, but you could do maybe ribbon candy or some kind of a zigzag, whatever interests you. Now I'm going to go up the inside of this side exactly the same way. Start with a division feather and add feathers on this side. the inside curl. And I've stopped right there, and again I want to put a double spine over to this point. Now I can do that freehand, or I could use the ruler as a bit of a guideline just to help steady my hand on the machine as I sort of roll around. So I'm going to do that for you. So I'm deliberately making it to be a gap so that there's a nice double spine. So now I have a double spine on both sides, and I have the opportunity now to put feathers on the outside of these. So I'm going to start again with a division feather, and I'll go ahead and put feathers on the outside of this curl. This could be any kind of feather you want, anything fancy. In any case, I'm using this guideline that I've given myself to sort of have some consistency with the plume that I'm creating. Filling my space. Stretch, 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 and one last one. Now if my needle is here, that's my needle, I need to get back to the bottom of this division feather, and I don't really want to make a mess while I'm doing it. And so now I can fill this double spine with something that coordinates with this thing here. So I'm going to go ahead and fill my way back down, and again I'm just using a little wiggle this time, but I could do pebbles, depends on how big you want how big you made your spine. Doing a little wiggle all the way down, and now I can quilt the outside of this side of the spine. So I'm going to go ahead and do that for you, and then we're going to take a break, and I'm going to just come back with a completely finished design, because obviously this is going to get kind of old watching me use Sharpie marker quilting, which is nowhere near as pretty as real quilting. I'm stretching to my center guidelines and filling my space. And finish. And again, I want my double spine to coordinate. So I'm going to do that all the way back. And then I can stop and tie off. So I can quilt both sides of this at the same time. This looks really beautiful once all of the sides are done, so I'm going to go ahead and do that for you so you can see what this design looks like using the outside of this ruler as a feathering guideline. So here I've finished the complete design. On this side of the design is a little bit more open, and on this side I made the effort to sort of squish all the feathers together to close the design down. So you can see that using the pinpoint holes as simply a different way of aligning the rulers along the guidelines is an excellent way to move along a little faster and use these big swooping curves as establishment lines for your feather spines, which is just one more really fun way to use these rulers. This next design I'm going to show you is using two of these precision pinholes as a quick alignment line by simply using one guideline dot, and I'm using a rotational set of guidelines that I've drawn on my tracing paper here. You could draw this on your quilt, but you could do the same style of design using any vertical line on, say, a border, for example. So I'm going to use this pinhole here and any one of the three guidelines up here and quilt the inside of this curve to make kind of a petal shape, which is really pretty. I'm going to pre-mark and make a decision where I want this pinhole. And the only thing I'm really paying attention to here is I don't want to cross this 45-degree line. So I'm going to choose one of these upward holes that allows me to make a nice shape without actually crossing the 45-degree line. So I'm going to choose this middle one for this particular spot. I could have moved where this pinhole was, and that would have changed that relationship. I'm going to stay quilting from the 90-degree line and stop. I'm going to leave my needle down right there, flip my ruler over, and then I can very quickly line up those marks again without really having to take too much time paying attention to the ruler. And so there you can see I have one little shape. So let's go ahead and do that all the way around using just the 90-degree lines to see what we get, and then we'll go from there. So we're going to do one more here. So there we have a very attractive, basically little 4-point petaled flower, and now we can embellish this if we wish. Some fun ideas might be to use these little straight lines and do a hexagon inside of here. I guess that would be an octagon, there's 8 pieces. We can add free motion machine quilting inside these petals. We can use them as feather shapes. So I'm going to go ahead and play with this design a little bit and show you some options. As you can see, I've embellished all of those petal-shaped lines that I just finished with 2 different ideas here. Again, these are all just idea prompts. So you can see you can use half of it here. You have to imagine if you flip this on all 4 sides. Or if we shift the cardboard, you can see a completely different design. Both of which would be completely beautiful done on all 4 sides, or as a design prompt for a beautiful border. These really sharp spikes are made with this exact same shape, and right there, that component right there. So all of the different sizes, shapes, edges of each of these 2 rulers are extremely versatile, and using these small pinpoint designs for just a faster way of lining up if you choose not to use the precision marking. So I hope that you feel that you can go and be creative with those. With this design, I'm going to show you using Lily Lines 2, a fun design that we can do. And again, these are all just ideas that are then meant to be structures that you can embellish and add your own design work to. So for this one, I'm going to be using one of the pinpoint designs here at the base of this S-curve, and it crosses the 90-degree line twice. You can see right here it swoops to the left and then swoops to the right. So I'm going to line up quickly this pinpoint with either this pinpoint or up here, or I could even switch it very far and line it up here. This is just a fast alignment process. So I'm just going to choose this one, and I'm going to be starting and stopping my quilting right on the 90-degree line each time. So I have my needle tucked down here into the corner, swooping up, and I'm going to simply stop with needle down, flip my ruler, very quickly line up those 2 pinholes again, and continue my sewing. Making a fun shape that can now be embellished. So I'm going to make a bunch of these, and then we'll come back and embellish them together. As you can see, I've completed the entire circle, as well as given these large teardrops a second frame on the inside, and that's another design opportunity. So what I'm going to do here is just give myself a guideline that more or less splits these areas in half, so that I can, in this sample, feather these and have each set of feathers stay on their own side of the line. I've given myself also a box to work in, thinking that this is a square that I'm going to fill. But again, this is just me working in the round. You could also do any of these designs along a straight line border, or even think of them as half components so that they would end up looking like that, and have a series of scallops along the side of a quilt, which would be beautiful. So let's go ahead and use these. These particular teardrops are just about the right shape to start a feather. And the nice thing about using the ruler to do this is that they're all very, very consistent. So even though I'm going to freehand the feathers on the outside of this, they start off very consistent, which lends an overall appearance of uniformity to the entire design. So now I'm going to simply fill all the way to the guideline that I've given myself, and I'm focusing on keeping my feathers really tight against each other and really working at filling this entire shape. So I'm stretching my feathers against my guidelines. All the way. And I'm using an heirloom style, which would be the hump and the bump sort of backtrack feather. So now I've completed that feather set there. Now if I wanted to, I could simply stop and return to the base, but with this double channel here, I have the ability to sneak down into the channel unseen and add a fancy internal design element inside this channel so that I can actually quilt both sides of this shape with one start and stop, which is kind of handy because burying threads obviously takes a lot of time. So I'm going to go ahead and do this just once for you live, and then after that I'll do the magic version of getting it done for you. So now once I'm back down here to the base, I can add feathers on this side. There is one component. I'm going to do the rest of these for you and we'll come back together. Once I'm here at the top, obviously I'm going to go ahead and finish going all the way back down the side so that this is one completed unit. So let me go ahead and finish this up for you. And now you can see the completely finished design with all of the feathering, stretching it into each corner, and adding this is a cross-hatching design, which I put on using one of my Stitch in the Ditch rulers. It has fine 1/8 of an inch marks on it, which is really handy for doing 1/8, quarter, 3/8 of an inch, whatever you feel like you want to do. So this is just one example. I hope between all of these different samples you have gotten a sense of how you can use the two Lily Lines rulers and using their little pinpoints for different types of design work, either lining them up or using them as rotation components, just as a fast way to use, instead of using the registration lines around the outside for a couple of different looks. I hope everyone has a wonderful day, and send me all of your design work using my rulers. That would be wonderful. Thank you.